Former Ethereum developer Virgil Griffith will serve over 5 years in prison and pay a $100,000 fine after pleading guilty to one count of conspiracy to violate international sanctions for giving a talk at a crypto conference in Pyongyang in 2019. Joining us now to discuss is Ethan Liu, freelance journalist and author of Once a Bitcoin Miner. Hi there, Ethan. Thanks for joining us. So you were with Virgil in North Korea at that conference, and you were in the courtroom yesterday when Virgil was sentenced. When you think of, start to finish and this conclusion, what impression are you left with?
Well, Virgil got 63 years yesterday. 63 months.
3 months, yeah.
63 months. And I think that's actually not that bad. That is within the guidelines of the plea bargain, and that is actually on the low side. And the defense had suggested 2 years in prison, which is way too optimistic. I don't think anyone actually thought that the defense was going to get that. So I think this is probably the best outcome that Virgil could have hoped for.
So Ethan, look, we've all given really bad presentations in our career. What was that presentation he did in North Korea? I mean, what was so bad? Now that the trial's over, what was in it that was questionable to the U.S.?
Mm-hmm. I think in my own view, there's basically nothing. It's very publicly available information. It's information you could have found on Wikipedia. And the judge acknowledges that. He said that whether the information is public or not, it doesn't matter. And he said that the issue, and this is something the prosecution brought up as well, is that a textbook can be full of publicly available information. But if a professor takes a textbook and he explains that and he elucidates that to the student, then he's providing the student a service. And that is the issue here.
But was it an actual service? I mean, did they listen to the actual recordings of that presentation? I mean, we've all had terrible professors as well who actually made it worse when you watch their presentations. I know I've given those actual presentations that maybe made people dumber after they watch it, including right now. But did the courts actually watch the whole thing?
Yes, they did. At least they watched part of it. They watched a big chunk of it, because they had a secret witness. So someone at the conference recorded the whole thing, at least a part of it, and they ended up getting to that witness and making that witness cooperate against Virgil.
Had that witness testify, or was it you, or was it?
No. So I actually offered to testify for the defense, and they didn't want me, but they didn't want any of the people who were on the trip to North Korea. But someone was supposed to testify against Virgil, but on the first day of the trial, he pleaded guilty. So we never got to that. And the identity of the person is, as a result, not publicly revealed.
The judge's final comments, about Virgil specifically, kind of cast a light on the judge's opinions of his motives, and it didn't portray him in the most sympathetic light. I'm just curious what you thought of those comments, because there was a little bit of an assessment of sort of his personal motivation for doing this, and they seemed quite cutting to me.
Yeah, but I would actually disagree with you that it didn't portray him in good light. I think it portrays him in the best light possible, because I think the alternative to that is that he was someone ideologically driven and was a traitor bent on undermining his country. At least the judge didn't go that route. And, this whole how he has this narcissistic personality disorder and how he wanted to be viewed as fearless and noble. It sounds bad, but I think it's way better than the alternative.
But the judge also said that, he would play every side so long it would benefit him. It seemed kind of harsh. But I also want to ask you about, he at first seemed to want to take this to trial, but then he pled guilty. And considering the outcome, do you think that was a better result, considering, in other cases we saw Ross Ulbricht, who wanted to try the case right to the end, and it didn't work out for him at all?
Yeah, I can't say if he would have won if he had gone to trial, but I think all in all, if you look at it, 63 months, that's 5.25 years, and he's already served 11 months. So, he's going to be out soon, and he's still going to be a fairly young man. And I guess maybe like it's perhaps not the best possible outcome, but it's the best outcome that he thought he could achieve.
Stepping back, of course, is that ultimately the only people who have access to the internet in North Korea are people who are government approved, essentially, if at all. Is that a major factor in all of this? In other words, look, crypto is ultimately an internet product. Without the internet, there'd be no crypto. So is it essentially that they're looking at this and saying, look, the only people you're going to benefit through this discussion were the North Korean military and government and regime, and you're just strengthening that regime? Is that kind of the argument? Is that ultimately the story here?
Yeah, more or less. I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think that is exactly what the prosecution is saying, and I think in the prosecution submissions to the judge, they quite clearly, and they went out of their way to say that the audience in the conference, the people who were listening to Virgil, they were North Korean government officials, or at least people working for companies linked to the North Korean government.
What was their motivation to sit there and watch it? I mean, like, clearly they're not trying to make dApps, and I mean, I don't know how many gamers there are in North Korea, for instance, but I'm guessing it's not as much as it is in North America. So, what was their ultimate? Those people in the audience, that you were there in that audience, what was their motivation?
So I would draw a distinction between the prosecution's narrative and what actually happened, and I do think the prosecutions, or what it's been saying, that is factual and they're not making things up. But I think what is kind of lost in the public discourse is also the fact that we did not meet the crypto people of North Korea. And this was one of my biggest disappointments from the conference, because I thought we were going to meet them, but the conference was organized by the cultural side.
Yeah, but who are those? Who are the crypto people of North Korea? I mean, like, how are they accessing the internet in a country where they basically clamp down when you try to use the internet, and it's complete total control of your internet access. So who are those people that you're talking about? I mean, do they exist?
Yeah, the government people, the government hackers. We've all heard stories of North Korea doing lots of shady stuff with respect to crypto, but we did not meet those people.
On the flip side, could crypto help the people of North Koreans? And I wonder if that was Virgil's, was his motivation. Could crypto be a freedom, something that they could grab onto to control and have sovereignty over their money? Or was it for these government officials?
I think absolutely crypto can help the people there, but also it cuts both ways. Crypto could also be a tool for the government to subjugate its people. And I actually don't think Virgil had any motivation on going there. Probably just like me, I just wanted to see North Korea. I thought it was cool. And I guess neither I or him expected the event to make the news in this way.